Well, I figure we just go in order, and let's just be honest. We're gonna start with the best thing first. So let's start with Tokyo Revengers.
Wow, you think Tokyo Revengers is the best thing? That might be true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So, if you are new to this season of anime, or you're listening to this in the future in spring 2021, it's so far removed that you're like, oh, what came out? Tokyo Revengers is a actually interesting take on, I wouldn't necessarily call it an isekai. It's more of a time travel.
Yeah, it's definitely a time travel.
Basically, the premise of the story is you have this guy, his name is Takemichi, and he is not living his best life. You know, he's got a crappy apartment, a crappy job, no girlfriend, and he's kind of lost his way in the world, and he's just making it by. Right? Yeah. But then he's watching the news one day and he finds out that the one person he actually really and truly loved and cared about in this world, his middle school girlfriend, has died in a gang-related incident. And that just kind of wrecks his whole brain, right? And so he has a near-death experience and he finds out he can time travel, and guess where he's back at, you guys? That's right. Middle school.
12 years ago.
His girlfriend's still alive, and she's actually still his girlfriend, and he is on the precipice of when his life started to go downhill and led him to make all the crappy choices that led him to a crappy adulthood. So, now he can time travel, and he is trying to find a way to save his girlfriend from being killed, because even in 12 years in the future, he is still madly in love with her, and he does not want her to die, even though they have not even though they have not spoken in years.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really crazy story, because it just like, it starts off and he's just like, it just seems like typical anime stuff. And then all of a sudden you get hit with the time travel. And it's like, we as anime watchers, we're like, clearly this is time travel. But in his mind, he's like, man, this is a long time for my life to be flashing before my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, because he's having this near-death experience. So he's like, this must be what they talk about when they say your life flashes before your eyes right before you die. And it takes a while for him to just be like, you know what? This might not be my life flashing before my eyes.
Like, this is actually real, but...
if that is the case, you know what? There's something I want to change.
Yeah.
You know? And it was just like, it leads them to make different decisions, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say that I really like about this anime is that in the beginning, he is still obviously very much the same person, and he thinks he's just reliving his life experiences. So he's just like, I remember what happened, and this is what happened. But the more you watch it and the more the story goes along, you can tell that he is starting to realize how he ended up in the adulthood that he ended up in, and he's starting to make conscious changes. Like, I can't just run away, because that is his biggest problem, is he runs away from his problems. And I'm not going to like spoil all of it. I mean, it's kind of a spoiler review, but I'm not gonna spoil all of it. But basically, his biggest issue is that he made a choice to run away from a problem rather than facing it, and that led to everything that happened within the next 12 years of his life. And now that he's back and basically getting a chance to redo it, knowing everything that he knows, he is choosing to make different choices. And there's also, you know, the plot of, you know, the brother of his girlfriend, he ends up actually saving his life inadvertently in an attempt to save his girlfriend's life. And his girlfriend is named Hinata Tachibana. That's her name.
Yeah, Tachibana.
And in trying to save her, he tells her younger brother, Naoto, that, remember this date, July 1st, 2017. You're like, protect your sister, because on that day, you're going to die and she's going to die. And, you know, he believes him, and that changes the future. And that's when they realize that this time traveling thing is real and not just some wacky dream, almost near death experience.
I like the fact that he got like yanked back to the future. Yeah. You know, so it's just like, normally, you know, you might go back into the past and you just have to relive everything and try to make better decisions, or you end up like reset at square one or something like that. Mm-hmm. But that's not how this goes. It's not like ReZero starting over. It's its own thing, and I like the fact that he goes back and forth so he can see the direct consequences of his actions when he gets back to the future.
And I also like that he cannot pick which day he goes back or how far. Like, his ability is literally he goes 12 years back to the day of his time travel. That's it. He can't go back further. He can't pick and choose which day he goes back to or anything like that. It's literally, if I go back, I'm going back 12 years. That's it.
So it's just like he's getting a redo, but he's only getting one redo for that particular time.
Yeah.
You know?
So it actually kind of reminds me a little bit more, like, obviously this is a shonen anime, but it reminds me of when we watched Orange, which is another time travel type thing where basically they send letters back to themselves in the past to make different decisions. And it creates like an alternate timeline type thing. So I kind of like the idea of time travel. But
when done correctly, it can be a slippery slope sometimes.
Yeah, but I like the idea of, if I knew what I knew now, would I still make the same decisions? And would my previous self believe me? So like with Orange, it was like, okay, what will we do differently? And obviously they had different consequences. Well, I don't know, but I guess both of them are dealing with the same type of consequences in each anime, the death of a friend.
Yeah.
But I like how in this one, in Tokyo Revengers, Takamichi's actually going back in the past himself. He's not writing himself letters or trying to leave like little notes and hints. He's not worried about screwing up the timeline or creating an alternate timeline. He's like, no, in this timeline, Tachibana dies. I have to stop that from happening. And that doesn't matter how many times I get the crap beat out of me. I'm still going to do this. And he gets the crap beat out of him a lot, considering that we only watched 2 episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, and the reason why, because I don't think we actually talked about it, is because, you know, when he was younger, he was in a gang.
Yeah, he was a delinquent.
And this same gang that he ends up kind of being associated with ends up killing his girlfriend 12 years later. He's not in the gang 12 years later. He's far removed from it because he ran away, you know. But now he's like, okay, I'm going to have to like get in this gang and figure out, you know, how can I use this to stop the events in the future from happening? And it's just, it's a cool little premise and it's fun. You have to see it. I'm not going to spoil all the moments, but I like the fact that he's forced to change his character. Well, I won't even say forced, but he's able to make new decisions based upon he knows where the current roads end up. You know, it might have seemed like the best thing to do at the time and the best sacrifices to make at the time, but now he knows the consequences of those actions. He's making different decisions, even though they cause him more pain than he went through originally. Yeah,
and I like that this anime is. It's kind of rough and tumble, but it's also not hard to look at, which is a very interesting way to explain it. But he's a delinquent. He's in a gang. He has superiors, and that comes with its own consequences. There is a lot of physical violence, so I'll say that is a trigger warning for this anime. If you're not into seeing people get punched in the face, and there's actually kind of a lot of blood, and there's a scene where this dude gets beat with a bat, and a lot of ganging up on people. It's a gang. They're delinquents, and they're not play delinquents. They're like they're not delinquents who hang out at school. Okay, these are delinquents who skip school and actually do illegal stuff and cause problems.
Yeah, and they'll be offended if you're a play delinquent.
Yeah,
they ain't playing them games.
So keep that in mind when going into this. But I will say this: it is not like a visceral reaction to the violence. Like, oh my goodness, I can't watch this. This is too much, and it's not gory. I'll say it's if you can stomach Attack on Titan, you can for sure stomach this.
Oh, this isn't nearly that bad. There's not nearly as much blood in this as there is in
and there's no decapitating or
Jujutsu Kaisen.
Removing limbs.
It's not even anywhere near that bad.
Yeah,
you know,
so it's very much cartoon
see anybody
violence.
die. You just see people get beat up.
Yeah, it's very much cartoon violence. So keep that in mind going into this. But I enjoyed it. I think it's really good. I think the storytelling is on track to be really good. Obviously, we're only 2 episodes into it, so it could make it far left and our assumptions be wrong. But so far, I like the animation. I like the pace of the storytelling. I feel like it had a good first episode. I was like, ooh, what's this? What's happening? I feel like a lot happened in it without me being bored or losing interest. And I like Takamichi as a character because I like characters who make bad decisions, and I like characters who grow from them, and I like characters who are not guided by this strong moral compass. So it's not like he is this police officer on the straight and narrow who is just like, I'm going to go back and do this, this, and this. It's like, no, he was a delinquent, and then he grew up to be a half-assed adult, and he was just like, well, damn, now that I get a second chance, let me try to make better decisions. And it's not like he's, like you said,
he's not trying to go back and be a hero.
He's just trying to make
that. He's just trying to save one person that he cared about. That
and he wavers on that, which
that
I
he
also
basically
like.
Abandoned before. You know.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's good. Definitely recommend watching it, but we're not going to continue to rant about it. If you want to know our opinions about it more, you can always get at us on Twitter at I'd Rather Anime. And yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about the next anime.